Enter the world of classic James Bond. We are the Spy-Fi guys, and this is From Russia with Love, the video game. Welcome to the Spy-Fi guys, where we cover spy facts, spy fiction, and everything in between. I'm Christian.
And I'm Zach. And happy Global James Bond Day to you, Christian.
Thank you. Yes, it is Global James Bond Day. And so as a treat for our listeners, we are doing our very first video game coverage.
Yeah, I had a joke ready about how I was going to say, today we're doing From Russia with Love, the classic James Bond, and then I was going to pretend it was a movie, and you were going to say, actually, it's the game, like a whole shtick, but then it didn't happen.
Nope. Yeah, so a little background on the game. It was released in 2005 from EA Games after Everything or Nothing, which featured Pierce Brosnan, and GoldenEye Rogue Agent. And it was released for the Xbox, GameCube, PS2, and PSP, and it features the likeness and voice of Sean Connery, and the likeness of most characters from the film From Russia with Love. Connery is the only one to return to voice his character. Most of the other actors and actresses had passed away, or in the case of, I think, Tatiana Romanova, the actress was still alive, but the person who did her voice had passed.
Because she was dubbed over.
Back in the early Sean Connery days, I think all the way up through You Only Live Twice, and actually on Her Majesty's everyone voiced their own, except for Lazenby in a few parts. But yeah, but up to about You Only Live Twice, most of the Bond girls are dubbed by the same voice actor, Nikki Vandersill, something to that effect. Yeah.
So they all kind of have the same voice. Is that what you're saying?
And actually, a lot of the Bond allies as well are also all dubbed by the same person, who I don't remember who that one is. But yeah, so there's some very similar voices that come around.
Yeah, I remember in the early Bond movies, they would cast the Bond girls as from models, not from actresses so much.
Yeah, I believe that the actress for Tatiana Romanova, Daniela Bianchi, who is Italian, was like a Miss Italy or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is also the last James Bond video game from EA, as they lost the rights to Activision in about 2006 or so.
And I guess we'll talk about the future of James Bond games later.
Yeah. So you've just recently finished playing through this game, right?
Yeah, like a couple months ago, I borrowed Christian's copy. I played it on the GameCube, which I think affected my experience quite a lot.
Okay.
But I also attempted to play.
Fired at the GameCube.
Well, it's a shooter on the GameCube.
And?
That's not what the GameCube was built for. It's built for Mario. It's built for Smash.
Or is that really the only things that you ever played it on?
Okay, anyway, I watched a YouTube video of some parts of this from a PS2 rip, and it seemed to run a lot smoother.
Okay.
So you can maybe do a comparison. Maybe you can look into it later. So I don't know if we want to get into this now, but I attempted to play Everything or Nothing. I borrowed both the games from Christian, and I found it basically unplayable.
And you were just bad at it.
That is also possible. I don't play a lot of classic games. I like the new stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So my experience. So I played this when it was released in 2005. I played it on Xbox at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I borrowed my friend's Xbox to play it, and then I got it for. I have a Wii, so which can play GameCube games. So I got it for the GameCube, and I played it on there. I've beaten it, and last night I played it a couple more times. I played a couple. First 5 levels or so, just to refamiliarize myself. I also watched a couple of playthroughs. I've watched Calvin Dyson, who's big on the YouTube Bond community, did a video on it, and I watched a video that had all of the cutscenes. So I did a little bit of a dive into it.
Oh my gosh, you'd be this prepared for every movie we cover?
Hey, I prepare by watching each movie and actually taking meticulous notes.
I guess I can't ask for much more than that. But it sounds like you really like the game.
Well, let's get to it. So, one of the interesting things about the game is, From Russia with Love is not actually the most action-packed Bond movie. So they had to add in a few things to sort of make it more, video gamey.
Well, yes, clearly. Though, here's a question for you, Christian. I
Mhm.
assume you remembered From Russia with Love absolutely perfectly.
Yeah,
The movie, that is.
yeah.
Okay, I had seen it a long time
I
ago.
figured as
I had
much.
very little memory of it. Do you want to know
Uh-huh.
what I remembered before
What do you
playing the game?
remember?
I remember he fights a guy on a train and throws him
Okay.
out the window. And when they said Lector, I was like, okay, I remember the Lector. And then I
Mm.
remember Ilsa Club with the foot and the foot knife. Then when I played the game, I was like, okay, the Gypsy Camp. Yeah, I kind of remember that
Okay,
now.
yeah.
The friend with the mustache.
Mhm.
Okay. But that's about it.
And I think you meant Rosa Club,
Yeah, that's right. The
yeah.
woman with the foot.
The shoe knife, yes.
Yes, the shoe
So,
knife.
here's some of the differences between the film and game. So, the game adds a prologue set in London where Bond rescues the Prime Minister's daughter
That was
using the
great.
using the jetpack, which wouldn't be seen in the films until Thunderball, 2 films after this.
Is Thunderball the only one that's in? Or is it another
Yes.
one?
It is
Yeah.
it makes an appearance in Die Another Day when they show a bunch of old gadgets.
Okay, that's not really what I meant, but thank you.
You asked if it's the only time it appeared, and it's the only
Yes.
time it's used,
This is the
really.
only time that's what I was going for, right.
I mean, it is activated, as a joke in Die Another Day, but that's not really what you're asking for. No, that's
Right.
the only time. All right. So in the video game, there's also no appearance from either Kronstein, who is the person, the mastermind behind this whole plot,
Mhm.
or Blofeld, who you only see Blofeld like behind a screen or from the back of his head until You Only Live Twice. But
Mm.
in the film, it is his first appearance,
But
and
I bet there's some rights issues around Blofeld.
there are, and we will get to that.
Yeah, I
Um,
suspected as much.
but instead, all of their lines are still in here, but they're spoken by Rosa Klebb instead.
Oh, okay.
And as you were saying, so Spectre in this film is replaced by Octopus due to the rights to Spectre being tied up with lawsuits with Kevin McClory, who was a producer on Never Say Never Again. That's a whole long story that I won't get into. Q appears in a training sequence in Q Lab rather than just coming to M's office to give him a gadget. And obviously, the game expands on a lot of different scenes from the films, adds driving levels with the Aston Martin DB5, which of course doesn't appear until Goldfinger, and is
Uh-huh.
also somehow a left-hand drive in this rather than the right-hand drive that it usually is, because it's a British car.
Huh.
So they put it as an American, on the American
Some
side for
kind of
some reason.
American version. That's
Yeah,
interesting. Having a queue level is
yeah.
just such a great way to have a tutorial level in a game.
Well, if you'd actually finished Everything or Nothing, you'd see that they did that exact same thing.
Okay, I watched Everything or Nothing on YouTube because I loved Willem Dafoe as a James Bond villain, so I had to watch it, even if I couldn't play it. So I do remember that, and it was
Okay.
John Cleese, which
It
is
was
great.
John Cleese, yes,
Yeah.
who was in Die Another Day, because yeah. Red Grant is not killed in the train fight via his Watchgarrote, but instead
Right.
seemingly killed by being thrown onto the tracks and killed by a train. The game adds a final boss fight in an octopus base, where it's revealed that Red Grant is still alive and he fights Bond in a giant octopus mech.
Yeah, you kill him twice.
hmm Yeah. Those are the big differences. There's obviously like I said, a lot of these levels expand on things, but it's mostly
Wait a second.
kept to the story. What?
I don't remember him breaking into a volcano lair and stopping a nuclear missile from Russia with Love. Did that happen?
That's why I said that was the final boss fight in
No,
an
no, no.
octopus base.
Oh, so that whole bit, obviously.
Yeah, that's
Right.
the whole.
What about
That's.
him running around bunkers and blasting everybody?
I mean, which part?
That's like the whole game.
Well, that's why I said it expands on
This just
things. So
adds lots and lots of
yeah.
action. Yeah.
Now, as I've said before, the gameplay is similar to Everything or Nothing. It's third-person shooter. You can lock onto targets with your left trigger. You have various gadgets you can use, including a Q-copter drone, laser watch, stun cufflinks, and a briefcase turret. It's non-regenerative health. You can pick up armor to protect yourself, but your health doesn't come back, unlike most modern games, which is probably why you died a lot, Zach.
That is not why. The reason why is because in this game, the first thing that I really liked about it is there's lots of pickups. There's lots of armor pickups. And there's lots of ammo pickups.
hmm
And Everything or Nothing. Now that I'm not going to compare the whole time. that was the reason why I found it so difficult was because you were constantly getting hurt and there was no way to get more health.
Hmm.
Like there was, but you just had to know where it was. It was like hidden, as opposed to here, when you kill a guy, he drops armor pretty frequently, which was nice. It wasn't too challenging, and if you're quick on the draw, you can usually get him before he gets you.
Okay. So you can switch between guns and gadgets using a load screen, which also pauses the game. My favorite part of this is also that you can get alternate outfits for Bond by searching through like different cabinets on each level. The outfits include tuxedos, other suits. So you start off in a like dark gray charcoal suit, and you
Right?
could get his lighter gray suit, and you also have his stealth outfit as well.
Yeah, and there's also a snow outfit, I
Oh,
believe,
that's right. I forgot the snow outfit.
you have his white tuxedo like on the cover.
Hmm.
But I don't know if this was true in the versions that you played,
Hmm.
the non GameCube ones. But if you died in a custom suit, when you came back, it would be in your old suit, like
Hmm.
not the changed suit.
Well, you can always change it back pretty
Yeah,
easily.
but that's like annoying. I
Eh,
don't want to do
never
that.
noticed it. Yeah.
All right.
All right. So that's sort of an overview of the game itself. Let's
Mhm.
review. I want to hear your thoughts, Zach.
Well, yeah, there's a lot. Did you want to like review about? Do you want to be like more specific about like which? So I guess we'll start with like okay. I guess so. So there's guns, there's cars, and then there's the jetpack. Those are like the three types.
Okay. Of the
So yeah, I like the jetpack the most. It was
All
super
right.
fun and pretty
Yeah.
easy. Like once you realize you can just strafe around while
Yeah.
constantly shooting,
Hmm.
it was pretty enjoyable and pretty cathartic just to blow up everybody, and
Yeah.
yet
Yeah.
still pretty challenging because there's shot. Oh, there's also boats. That's
Oh
pretty
yeah. There's a
similar to the
yeah.
jetpack.
Hmm.
Uh, the cars I also enjoyed
Hmm.
as well. The gun play was fun, but it was also the most frustrating because I felt like I was always running out of ammo.
What were you
Did
doing?
you experience this?
No. Okay. What level did you put this on?
Regular
Oh.
agent.
Oh. See, I did operative.
Is that like lower than agent?
Yeah. That's the easiest level.
I might have done operative too. I don't know what
Okay.
to tell
Yeah.
you.
I never. Well, at least when I replayed the first 5 levels,
You didn't
wasn't
have
running
that
out of
problem.
ammo. No. Did
In
you
like
just
the
not pick up enough ammo everywhere?
no, I well in the better gun, like the better guns, like the AK
Oh, yeah,
47,
okay.
the sniper rifle, the
I mean,
shotgun. By the way, that was my favorite gun. Was the
yeah,
shotgun?
okay.
Yes, just because it's so not Sean Connery, James Bond to like run into a room and just blow everybody away like you're the Punisher.
I like the SMG best, I think, was my favorite gun.
Well, I feel like the best gun is the pistol, the PP7,
Mhm,
because it's like stun locks guys, and the clip is so long that you can just keep shooting them.
mhm.
Uh, what did you think of the 007 moments?
I mean, I love that those have been in the games, I think at least since EA has had the license, really, and I always think
Mhm,
that's a fun thing, because there are different ways you can do this. You can take a more stealthy approach, you can go guns blazing.
mhm.
And so the fact that they have these moments, they could, yeah. So if you do something that's very 007, like say using your grappling hook to, crash through a window and knock out a guy, and that gives you a 007 moment. I thought that's a nice touch.
Yeah, some of them like you have to do, but
Hmm.
most of them are bonus. So you got to
Yeah.
figure them out on your own,
Hmm.
which is good for replayability. There's one that I found where you knock out a radio guy before you can radio other people. That's apparently a
Ah,
007
yeah.
moment. Oh, something else I wanted to mention about the car sections, which I also enjoyed,
Yeah.
um, was my other favorite weapon besides the shotgun is the
The tire
tire
slashers.
the tires because it's not a tire slasher. You hit a car with it and it like explodes and goes flying away from you like it was just punched by a giant invisible fist. It was
Hmm.
pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are fun.
Mhm. So we also have a couple new bad guys that were not from the movie, like the
Right.
woman in the cat suit, for example.
Played by Maria Menounos.
Love her.
Hmm.
Yes. What did you think about the puzzles? There was also some puzzles.
I thought they were interesting. Like, a lot of times when you're using the Q copter, that you're trying to solve a puzzle to like, all right, how do I, navigate this thing to like blow up the door to get into the door?
Mhm. The Q-Copter really can't do anything except blow up.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's mostly just backtracking to find a lever you have to pull.
Right, right.
I also liked the fight against the helicopter in the
Hmm.
library.
Yeah.
That was cool and challenging.
Hmm.
And I like the first boss fight against Red Grant,
Mm. Yeah, that's a
where
good.
you're in a train station and he has this big gun because he like slowly destroys your cover, so you
Right.
have to
Yeah.
move quickly.
Hmm.
I thought that was neat.
So actually, here's something we haven't talked about. Well, we briefly mentioned it, but so Sean Connery at I don't how old was he in this point? Let me do the math quickly.
Hmm.
So this game came out in 2005, presumably recorded around 2004, and he was born in 1930. So he was 75,
Hmm.
74, 75 when he recorded this. What did you think of his vocal performance? Because that was the crazy thing to me about this game is that they got back Sean Connery, Mister Never Again, except for it never say never again, but now it's out of continuity. Said he'd never perform as Bond again, and they got him to do it. And it's still 75-year-old Sean Connery's voice coming out of young Sean Connery's body.
You know, I actually, in general, I liked it. It didn't sound like he was 75. It actually
Yeah,
sounded like
yeah.
he cared.
Yeah.
So,
Like
like,
he wasn't phoning in. He was actually trying to act out these lines.
yeah, the lines they gave him, it's not like there's deep emotion in them,
No.
right?
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, it's weird. Like a voice performance is quite different from a in front of the camera performance,
Mhm.
and it's kind of amazing that they were able to pull it off. I actually thought when it started was that they were using recorded clips of
Oh,
Sean
like
Connery
just
from the
clips from
movie.
the movie? Yeah. No, these are brand new recordings.
Yeah, it didn't sound any different to me. It, I just kind of wish they had like taken a little bit more risks with it. You know,
Hmm. I
don't
mean,
ask me what kind of risks.
yeah. Okay, I was about to because
I
I
guess
mean,
like deep emotions. I mean, it is a video
oh,
game where you just
it's
run
a
around
video
blasting
game.
people.
Also, Connery's Bond, in particular, never had really deep moments.
That's true.
So
That's
it's
true.
not like they could really, unless they were doing an adaptation of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which of course didn't star him, it starred George Lazenby. Then it's really hard to do,
Oh, that would have
deep
been
emotional.
such a good idea. You should write. You should work for EA.
Uh,
It's like an
Except they don't have the license
imaginary.
anymore.
I know, but it's like, what if On Your Majesty's Secret Service had Sean Connery in it, and it's
Oh,
also a
that's
video
all right.
game?
I
People have
mean,
done that.
there are deep fakes on the internet of putting Connery in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, except they don't have the voice there.
There you go.
Yeah.
Mhm. So,
Yeah.
okay. So, speaking of Rosa Klebb,
Yes.
did we fight her in the game? I feel like
No.
what happens? Does she just like disappear?
No, so they do what how the film ends, which is, she's disguised as the maid once they get to Venice, and like she does her little shoot thing, and then Tatiana has to choose between shooting Bond or her because she's still under Kleb's orders, and she shoots Kleb, and that's
Okay.
all how she's dispatched. And then after that, which is really the end of the movie, that's when you have the big boss fight in the Spectre. I mean, the Octopus layer.
Right, which ends the game. Yeah,
Yeah.
they couldn't even make that a quick time event.
Nah, yeah, that. I mean, there's not really a lot of QuickTime events. That QuickTime events weren't a big thing yet at this point.
Thank goodness. I mean, I never thought I would have wanted a quick time event, but if it's better than just watching a cutscene, right?
Eh, yeah.
Speaking of Tatiana, how did you feel about the escort mechanic?
Oh, where she has
Just like a danger meter or
it's like
something?
it's a threat level is what or something like
Oh,
that.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
I thought it was fine.
Yeah, that's
It
fine.
actually didn't it didn't
I don't
bother
really
me.
like escort missions in
Well, yeah, I
general,
mean,
so
nobody likes escort missions, but you could do it a lot worse.
yeah, true, true. What I also just like, so not only did they get Connery's voice, but they definitely in terms of modeling him, and everyone else, they did a really good job. But I also appreciated like the movement of him as well. That looked pretty good for Connery, and they also like Connery in as Bond was very much he didn't aim his gun; he was always firing from the hip,
Uh-huh.
and they have that as well in like how he fires a gun.
And how he fires the pistol, I
Yeah.
definitely can see that now that you
Hmm.
mention it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's true. Do you have a favorite gun? I like the
Well,
shotgun.
I said the
Yeah, yeah,
SMG.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we said
it
it
was very
already.
useful and versatile. The driving levels, I did play one of them through the 5 levels I played last night just to refresh my memory. It's easier than I remember it being, because I remember the first time I did it, I was really struggled with the driving levels because they have the Aston, handle as it actually would, in that it's, cars from the 60s
Right.
don't handle that all great.
Yeah, sure, that's the reason. It wasn't just the limitations of the technology at the
Well,
time.
if you go back to Everything or Nothing, the driving levels there are very smooth. The Aston Martin, I think they have the V12 Vantage, or one of the newer Astons handles very smoothly. So it seemed like it was designed that way because they've
That's
done it
fine.
in the previous game.
Yeah, so the my only sort of thing about the driving levels, besides the one that's timed, which always sucks, no
Yeah.
gamer will ever like that, is that the first few levels are all in that same town, so they're kind of the same. It's like
All
the
right.
same
In
environment.
in Istanbul, yes.
Yeah, and then later when you're out on like the coast,
Hmm.
that's a lot better. I
Yeah.
like I like the part where you're constantly jumping over things.
For me, it's more, but it's not necessarily about the gameplay or the intricacy of the I can't. It's more about the feel of getting absorbed into that world. I thought they did a really good job of sort of, like I said, modeling all of the various characters in the movie, as well
Yeah,
as
like the
getting like,
'60s vibe.
yeah, as well as also getting people, sound alikes or voice actors to actually sound like the actors. I think the person who does M sounds really good, as well as Tatiana and Red Grant. Yeah, they all sound really good.
Yeah, it almost makes you wish for more cutscenes and less blasting.
Yep, yep.
So I know I brought this up before with a quote about how video games turned James Bond into a gun-toting commando.
Right.
In
I mean,
this game, you totally are. You
yeah.
totally are. You're constantly shooting people, but
Mhm,
it's not a complaint because it's better than like a forced stealth section or like forced conversation or anything like that. So
mhm.
that's how I prefer it. Mhm.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, I also liked the tear gas
Mm,
mechanic. That was
right.
kind of cool. And they don't always remind you that you have a gas mask. Though again, and this might be because it's an older game, there is some user experience issues. Like for example, there's special ammunition.
Oh, yes.
And in order to equip special ammunition, you have to go into a different menu, go
Yeah.
to the gun that you want to use it for, and then change the ammo type. As opposed to just hitting a button when you're on that gun and then having
Mhm.
it switch.
Yeah.
So the result is I basically never use special ammo because I always forgot that
Really?
I had
Oh.
it. Did you do the extra levels?
I have a long time ago, but it's been a while.
Mhm. Or go for like the Achievos or the 007 moments?
Definitely for the 007 moments, but I don't think, yeah, the other stuff. It's been a long time. Yeah.
So so since you know James Bond trivia, the friend with the mustache,
Oh,
I, s-
Karambay.
I
Yes.
seem to remember the actor was like dying of like stomach cancer or something when
Yes.
he did it.
Yes.
Do you know the whole story about that? Or the listeners may want to know.
He basically, well, we can talk more about it whenever we actually cover the film From Russia with Love, but yeah, he
Uh-huh.
basically was struggling to get through the shoot, and if I recall, like, he committed suicide not too long after the
Yeah, that's
filming
right.
was. Yeah.
Hmm. I
Yep.
thought there'd be a bit more to the story than that,
There's
but
not
okay.
really much. Yeah, just that, that it was tragic that he.
You went out that way, yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
I'm surprised the game didn't let you unlock different cars as well as different outfits.
Well, I mean, you're also like, this is 60s Connery Bond. There's really only one car.
Yeah, why would you want to play as anything else?
I mean, unless you drive the light blue Sunbeam from Doctor No, that's the only other car he drives I can think of.
There you
That
go.
that convertible that he drives around in front of the very bad rear projection. You remember that?
Yes, of course. I don't
Yes.
think it was bad. I thought it was classic.
I mean, yeah.
So that also something else I wanted to bring up. So in the beginning, like the second level of the game, you have
Yeah.
to cross a checkpoint and you fight your way around, and then you're on a stationary gun and you have to
Yeah.
kill a tank with it.
Right.
And
Yeah,
I
the
got
tank.
stuck on that for a while because
Really?
I wasn't sure who to shoot, and
Oh.
the minion with the rocket launcher kept shooting me, and then he just knocks Bond over, and then he slowly gets back up while everyone's shooting him. And then when I went back and watched it later on YouTube,
Yeah.
I don't know whether that was glitched or whether mine was glitched because the guy kept shooting Bond with the rocket launcher and it like didn't even hurt him,
Oh. No, it
let
definitely
alone
hurt
knock
me
him
when I did it
over.
last night.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did it knock you over too?
It did, if you got hit enough times, you do. But I basically always, like, I was just shooting at the tank, and then I just, if I saw him come up, I would just shoot towards him and then come back, and basically not let my finger leave the trigger and just spray and go up and then back back in the center tail of the tank.
Yep, as you do. The stationary turret. So
Yeah.
we'll have to give you back the GameCube version and see if it holds up.
Yep. All right. Well, shall we give a rating for this then, Zach? I'm very curious.
I don't know. Are you gonna get mad at me if I give it a bad rating?
So we'll rate it on a scale of 1 to 10 martinis. 1 being 007 Legends for anyone who's played that game, and 10 being better than GoldenEye, classic
Well,
GoldenEye.
it doesn't hold up, by the way. But yeah, I don't think it was a bad game. I thought it was pretty enjoyable. It
Okay.
had some jank considering how old it was and the
Right.
system that it was on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was fine. I thought it was okay. I will give it a 6 out of 10. I thought it was
Okay.
enjoyable.
I
would not go back and play it again, though.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so I would go back and play it again, and then I definitely did because I went and I've gone through it. I've played through the whole game at least twice, and I would and after playing the first 5 levels last night, I'm like, maybe I will, hop off after this recording and play a little bit more.
There you
Because
go.
I just, I'm not a big gamer, so there's these nitpicks that you seem to have about the gameplay style or anything. I'm roll with and go. I'm like, okay, so that's how you play it, and I just deal with it. But like getting sucked into that world and like Russia with Love is one of my favorite James Bond movies. So the fact that they actually made a Bond video game with it, starring Sean Connery
you're like
with
the
his
target
actual
audience, basically.
yeah. So I'm gonna give it. I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10.
Oh, so you think they could do better?
I mean, I think that if they were going to do it's the weird because do love the movie, but it's not the most action packed. So if they were gonna do one of his others, like You Only Live Twice has actually has a volcano base and invasion and all this sort of stuff. So like maybe that's where the one they should have done if they were turning it into a video game.
Well, what about doing an original story like
They
Everything
could
or
have done
Nothing?
that too. Yeah.
That seems like it almost would have been a better decision, right?
Maybe. I mean, you'd also it'd be an interesting balance of you have to make it feel like the '60s, but also creating a new story that hasn't been covered in some sort of way with Connery. Yeah. So I mean, I think that would have been a fun way to do it too. That is why I give it a 7. Like it is a very fun game for me, and I like it a lot. But there could have been better things, other things to do. Yeah.
There's room for improvement. It is older too. Video games, unlike movies, don't necessarily age that well. But speaking of classic video games, I have a recommendation for you.
Okay.
But with the caveat that I haven't personally played it. It's a game called No One Lives Forever.
Spy in Harm's Way. Yep.
Right. So you're familiar with it already?
I've played through the first level of I think it was the first. I have both the first and second games. Yeah, I have played through the first level of. I forget if it was the first or the second. It's fun so far. Yeah, I
Okay,
haven't.
so for those the audience members who may not be familiar with it, it's a classic '60s style video game, first-person shooter, and the protagonist is basically Emma Peel from the Avengers.
Yeah, her name is Kate Archer, if I recall. Yep.
So it seemed like it would be up Christian's alley, but anyway,
and
continue.
It is. So speaking of other games, so there have been a number of different Bond video games since this game come out. So in order, you had Quantum of Solace by Activision, which was actually an adaptation of both Quantum of Solace and Casino Royale, but came out around this time of the Quantum of Solace movie. You had GoldenEye Reloaded, which was a remake of GoldenEye for the Xbox, but starring Daniel Craig.
Yeah, I remember seeing previews for that, and then they had people playing it at a con that I went to. It might have been Awesome Con here in DC, and I was like, "Oh, interesting. I would give that a try." Have you played that one?
I have. I've played through. I think I'm on the last level. I never actually finished the last level of GoldenEye Reloaded. When you're actually taking out the satellite dish, I think I should get back to it at some point. But yeah, I played it on it's one of the few sort of good shooters for the Wii. And you actually get to use like the Wii nunchuck and the remote. I have like it's what did they call that? Whatever the Wii like gun system was that you basically
the
feel
Wii
like
Blaster or something like that.
Yeah. So I use that for that. It's a lot of fun. So I've played through all of Quantum of Solace. And then after that, still with Activision, we had Bloodstone, which was an original story starring Daniel Craig. I don't
Oh, I
remember
never
if
even heard of that one.
yeah, it was just I think it was for the Xbox, PC, and probably PS, or I don't remember, maybe PS3 at that point, probably. I don't know. It's an original story. It was sort of set. It actually came out the same day as GoldenEye Reloaded did, which was like a Wii exclusive, I think.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then finally from Activision, you had 007 Legends, which was an interesting story. So it was starring Daniel Craig, and it's sort of
Mm.
set basically at the beginning, during the beginning of Skyfall, where after he gets shot by Moneypenny and he's like
Yeah.
falls into the river.
Mhm.
Basically, he has fever dreams as he thinks he's about to die, revisiting past missions. Except their missions are GoldenEye or Goldfinger. So get
Right.
to see Daniel Craig in Goldfinger,
Mm.
Moonraker,
Mm.
On Her Majesty's Secret Service, License to Kill, and then finally there's a Skyfall level.
So the fact that you rated it a 1 though seems to indicate that it doesn't live up to that premise.
So basically, the premise is really fun, but it's just a Call of Duty clone.
Mm. You can't even really tell that you're in Moonraker.
I mean, you can like that Moonraker is probably the most. Oh, Die Another Day was the other one that I forgot.
Oh.
Is they had it?
Uh-huh.
One they had real interest like Moonraker and Die Another Day. Those are their choices for those two. Like basically, they had one from every Bond actor.
Uh-huh.
Also, License to Kill. I don't know. So
Gotta pick
it
one of them.
yeah, one of those two. But yeah, the gameplay is very much just like you said, just he's a shoot 'em up commando kind of thing.
Right.
Whereas some of those movies lend themselves to that, some others don't, and yeah, it just felt like a bad Call of Duty clone in a lot of places. Whereas at least From Rush with Love did not feel like that. It doesn't feel like a clone of something else really.
That's fair.
And
007 Legend sounds like the perfect one to watch on YouTube
probably actually.
instead of playing it.
Yeah, and then on the mobile gaming side, we had oh god, this one actually I should have said this is the one as the one or
Mm.
zero. James Bond World of Espionage mobile game, which was basically it's again Daniel Craig's Bond going through all of these past missions, including from other James Bonds, but
Uh-huh.
using basically clip art and what's the the generic photo art of people. What am I thinking of? What's it called?
Like a still cutscene with text on the bottom, like in a lot of
No, well,
JRPGs.
it was that, but no, like where Getty photos or something like that.
Oh
Basically,
no.
they just pulled like images from Getty photos and what's and yeah,
Wow.
any of
So it's really made
it
on a
was
cheap.
really bad, and it was like there was no actual gameplay of you doing anything. It was just basically you're clicking a button as you're going through a story,
Mhm.
and not in an interesting way like the Batman games. It was
Right.
with an interesting story. No, there's just like yeah, it was terrible. So that really should have been the 0 or 1.
Mm.
Finally, we have a game that was released just last week called
Whoa.
Cypher 007 for Apple Arcade.
Mm.
If you're not familiar with Apple Arcade, it's basically a subscription service on Apple, so you get exclusive games. And the nice thing about these Apple Arcade is there's no in-app purchases, so it's not a pay to win
Right. Like
scenario.
every other mobile game.
Right, yeah, so I appreciated that. So Cypher 007, similar premise to 007 Legends, except
So yet another one where you go through the old movies. Okay.
except there's a reason this time. It's not just he's having fever dreams. So the prologue sets up that he's trying to infiltrate a Spectre lair. He gets captured,
Mm.
and Blofeld is trying to brainwash him. And so the best way to counteract the brainwashing is for his mind to rebuild itself by remembering all these past missions.
All
And
right.
so
Not that.
far I'm on the second chapter. So the first chapter was really just sort of setting that up and like letting you figure out how to play the game. It's kind of Skyfall inspired because you go through like the London Underground and through MI6. The second level is you only live twice, and that's been pretty good so far. So I like it because it's on Apple Arcade. It's funny like they're very specific about like death and shooting. So the bad guys don't die; they just fall asleep. You don't have a gun. It's a stun gun.
Wow. It's barely. This sounds like James Bond Jr.
Yeah, but it is still. I mean, it's still like the mechanics of it are the same. You still shoot the people, and you will die, and you restart. At various checkpoints.
So
It's
is it
kind
like
of
cartoony?
a little bit.
Okay. Maybe
Um,
I'll check it out.
it's fun. Yeah, it's kind of stealth puzzle based more than it is a shooter, which I
Well,
appreciate.
yeah, that's kind of what you want for a spy game.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
do people ask him the numbers, James? What do they mean?
What's that?
Never mind. That was the reference to Call of Duty Black Ops.
Oh. Mm-mm.
No, all right. Forget it.
And so finally, we have upcoming projects in terms of James Bond video games. It's called Project 007 by IO Interactive, who are the makers of Hitman. We know next to nothing about this game, not even when it would come out or what the storyline would be. The only thing we do kind of know is that it will be an original story and it'll be an original James Bond. So it won't be based on any of this, characters or actors that we have seen in the past.
They've done that before, right? I
Only
seem to remember there's
twice.
been a game. Yeah.
In Agent Under Fire, it is a not a real James Bond, or
Right.
not a real actor. Rather, it's
Yes.
a likeness based on a sort of generic James Bond. And in GoldenEye Rogue Agent, you don't play as Bond; you play as a disgraced agent who turns to work for the bad guys. Um,
Ooh, neat.
which is it's a neat premise, but it's really has nothing to do with the GoldenEye game. But you do work with Bond in the opening mission, and you get him killed. Although it's revealed this was all just a training exercise, it wasn't really
What?
getting 007 killed.
That's lame.
But because of that training exercise, the main character gets fired. So when you
That,
see that James Bond, it is also not based on any pre-existing actor. And
Hmm.
actually, the third time it is Cypher 007, the Apple Arcade game. It is not based on a specific 007 actor, although it kind of looks like Roger Moore. Like all of you have your M, your Q, and your money pennies, and they all kind of look like certain actors, but they're not specifically based on them.
right.
So, yeah. Anyway, so that's what I've got about all the
Well, since you
Bond
talked
games
about
since this. Yeah.
since you talked about every other Bond game, why don't you just talk about everything or nothing now?
I mean, what do you want to know about it? It's just,
Well,
I mean,
did you like it? What'd you
I liked
think?
it a lot. I think, I
Was
mean,
was it good? Was it as good as From Russia with Love?
I I I don't. I'd put them right there side by side. I mean, because it is an original story. I do appreciate that they brought actors like and actresses like Heidi Klum, Willem Dafoe. They brought back Jaws, which was nice,
Right.
and they did get Judy Dench back to voice her M, and as well as it being really Pierce Brosnan's swan song. That's interesting, actually. Now that I think about it, for both Pierce Brosnan and Sean Connery, the last time they ever played James Bond was in a video game.
That's totally believable. Kind of like how all these Doctor Who actors, their last Doctor Who
Oh,
performance is in an
audiobook.
audio drama or an
Yeah.
audiobook or something like
Hmm.
that. Though I must say, speaking of actors coming back, I recently played the Ghostbusters video game
Oh, yeah. How's that?
because they were like, it's the actors believe them to be the unofficial third movie,
Right, right. Yeah.
and it is cool that they're all back. Like,
Hmm.
how often have you played a video game with Bill Murray as a voice in it? Like,
Hmm.
never,
Fair
right?
enough.
But
Yeah.
the story is pretty generic, to be honest. Like, there's
Okay.
another god from another world.
Uh,
They ask him if he's a god. He says yes. Oh yeah, yada yada.
huh.
Though they do some cool stuff with Ghost World. Like, they go into the Ghost World where
Oh,
everything's
okay.
like,
Yeah.
things that would be way too expensive to do in a movie. You can do that in a game. So
Right. Of
that's kind
course.
of what I mean by like doing something really different
Uh
because you
huh.
can.
Hmm.
They just could have pushed it a little bit further. So it's still,
I
but
mean,
yeah, it's still
for
kind of fun. Still a
yeah.
good time.
Hmm. I mean, yeah. When you're talking about that for from Rush for Love, if you push it too far away from the movie, then just call it something else entirely.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't even have really any brilliant ideas for
I
what they
mean,
could do.
they did add that whole other level in the end, which was the
Yeah. Plus, you had boats, you had more
Mhm.
car chases, all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah.
What more can a James Bond fan ask for? I mean, really.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for joining us. Happy James Bond Day to you all.
Mm-hmm.
You can find us on social media at the Spy-Fi Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and also our merch store at redbubble.com. Until next time, I'm Zach.
And I'm Christian.
And we are the Spy-Fi Guys, signing off.
Thank you for listening to the Spy-Fi Guys. If you enjoyed our podcast, please be sure to give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. The theme song from this podcast is Mistake the Getaway by Kevin MacLeod from Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0. Films, books, and television shows reviewed by our podcast are the intellectual property of their respective copyright holders, and no infringement is intended.
This is a personal podcast. Any views, statements, or opinions expressed in this podcast are personal and belong solely to the participants. They do not represent those of people, institutions, or organizations that the participants may or may not be associated with in a professional or personal capacity unless explicitly stated. Any views or opinions are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, or individual.
You can find our podcast on social media at The Spy-Fi Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.